I did.
Men's mental health.
Doing that, shining light on that piece.
Of course.
Men still to this day find it. I can't speak for men, but I will say that the men that I've dated and known, they've always been so shy of steering away and getting. I mean, I guess you could, but I just stuck on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
About depression.
photos, financial stressors, therapy. I've been a lot of my friends, they all just tell you like your obviously see you bottle in your emotions and just keep on. But I mean, that's what their fathers told them. So I don't blame them.
That's what I need, like
Trying to enlighten them.
Yeah. So I'm hoping into in the situations.
It would help. It would help a lot of different things. It's like gender.
It's like the best of your week talking about, but I'm there.
I didn't go back. I had to start somewhere. And like when I was yeah, so she said what, so I wrote, so she, nice, I gotta recommend.
I was like,
Why is no one going to commencement? What is commencement? I don't know.
so do you get your degree conferred at Penn State? Or like the diploma, like over at
So you walk across the stage.
Completed like that, but the only thing that makes it conferred is just like your house. So they don't really
How long is it?
It's longer than 8 hours. It's got like business. Hours. It's got like math.
No, I think that's the first one.
Right, that's all like valedictorian. Yeah. Wait, why is it?
I don't know why they have us walk across the street. Ours is like recessed, so I don't think. The second one.
I was like, what? How have I done?
Because that one
Did you
starts at
see
11:30.
Long Beach, their graduation? It's like going viral because they don't have nice names. They just camera and you like walk in front of it and grab your phone and working.
Wow. I mean, did they vote on that? It's like they voted on it.
I feel like it's probably.
Yeah, they wouldn't just throw that at you last minute.
No way.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that would be like, how do you guys feel about like just walking, like, because that would have been me. I would have been like, I'm down.
How are we gonna line up alphabetically?
So I didn't think that was
I saw that. So we're in the top right.
like 6 or 7, so like 7 or 8,
Yeah, yeah.
and like an hour. So I'm assuming that
Then they're
time
gonna
is
line
just
us
for
up
them to be
here.
like the person.
Because I was like, I have no.
No, it's not alphabetical. When we get there, they give us a piece of name on it. Yeah, and then you you just line up how you want to. And then you just like hand it to them and they read the name.
Oh.
And they'll ask you.
Oh, that's kind of chill.
Like, how do you go over
Yeah,
it?
because
And then they'll repeat it right
doing
after.
alphabetical.
It's middle stuff to be there.
And not walking with like a friend. Okay, all the way to to the end for no reason.
So the second one is from 11:30 till.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm texting my family right now.
And then I don't have a migraine.
Hey, Melissa. So, you know how you're discussing I still had that.
I'll slay with that.
She was like, yeah, why? Where's the application? So,
I like being close to her. I noticed.
She said
So
she
random.
I know.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Welcome, everyone. We survived to the end of the semester. Amazing. I know it felt like at times we weren't sure if we would get there, but we are here. We made it. So what we're going to do today is look at the pieces that you all contributed to our exhibit. We are also streaming live on YouTube. So if any of your friends or family want to view this later, I will resend the link. It is also on Canvas, and so you can share it with them. All right. And our exhibit will live on the library site in perpetuity. So it will be there for as long as the library site exists. Okay. All right. So I guess I'll give a little introduction and then we'll get started. We're going to go almost in alphabetical order. So, so for this semester for creative publishing and critical storytelling class, I kind of viewed the class as a lab in which we looked at different examples of types of storytelling. We kind of experimented with some of that. We heard from some professionals who are authors or filmmakers. We went to the makerspace and we tried out some visual art. So we, tried different types of storytelling. And from like our experimentation and our discussions, a theme of uncertainty seemed to kind of emerge through the class. And uncertainty kind of seems to come out of a lot of what's going on right now. Coming from the pandemic, we're still kind of trying to find some sort of landing spot, and it seems like it hasn't really settled down yet. There's so much inflation. We've dealt with a lot of environmental crises. A lot of you are approaching graduation, and I'm sure life after that feels kind of unsure. So there's uncertainty inherent in a lot of what we're experiencing, and I think capturing that worked really well in terms of your work for the exhibit. So I'm really proud of all of the work that you did, and especially the pieces that you created here, and I'm really excited to share those. So we'll kind of go in this order. I'll pull this up to remind us all who's going when. So I'm asking each of you to come up to talk a bit about what your piece is and how you created it. And then we will take a look at it or read an excerpt from it or whatever it may be, because this is multimedia. Okay, Ferris, would you like to come up? Let me do it. That's true. Sure. Yep.
All right. So as we spoke about, for me, I realized through my project that there are a lot of unprocessed feelings that I have about the pandemic and about graduation. And it reminded me of the tarot card, the death tarot card, because when people get that card, if you've ever had your cards read, people panic and they freak out because they think that means somebody in their family is going to die. But what it really means is that through death, there is opportunity for growth. It just means new beginnings, opening doors. So it's a good card to get. And with the pandemic, there was this universal sense of isolation that ended up, I feel like, making me closer to my friends and my family. And with graduation, I'm seeing the exact same thing. There are people who are so excited about it. There are people who are terrified or completely unfazed, and through all this different emotion. Kind of just this project was my working through that and kind of putting on paper just the grief that I'm feeling at the loss of this space. So it's called Graduation, and it centers on grief in different formats. One of the main themes was parental alienation and the grief with that. And then the others are on the pandemic and graduation day. So the first one is titled Water. There's water in the poison supply, we've nothing else to drink. The water is brackish and hard, the fog is thick as mink. It burns and scalds the skin, searing marks and bruises. It leaves your throat scratched dry, where and when it chooses. Poison water takes all sound from room, all light, all breath, all joy. Water with a vengeance, weather with a voice. There's poison in the water supply, I didn't poison my own well. It was like that before my birth, ingrained by quirks and tells. Eyes wet when tones turn pointed, I come from bad stock. My empty, endless hunger, poisoned water bears no crop. The village moved to greener pastures so they would not fall sick. Just my dad remains, he claims this is no way to live. Devoid of growth, devoid of love, alone with just my thirst. There's poison in the water, but dehydration, death is worse. Ooh. And the second poem is called Where I Was at the Start. I was out, I was free, I had friends who saw me in the halls and stopped to chat. I never had to go back to that house up all night, pissing off someone else's neighbors. I was drunk in assignments printed 5 minutes after class. I was tight jeans, a face I hadn't yet grown into. It was our spring break party, to sobbing, to goodbye, in the lobby, to packing. My whole dorm by myself, alone, my small space safe, taken, to falling asleep at the wheel, up all night packing to make it home before the deadline, where school would no longer refund what had taken me 4 years to save, nauseating childhood depression hidden with rage, with rage, with rage. So full and filling, I was thrown from my childhood bedroom to an echoing cold apartment alone. I moved again alone. The smoke thick, 3 fires in between me and my new, cold, lonely, strange home. My aunt begged me to wait, but I have to go be alone at work. No coworkers, no customers, alone at home, no roommates, no furniture. I sit on my air mattress and watch my professors cry. And I'm going to skip to the last poem, which is called Grief. Is the suffered infection of trees growing around foreign objects and taking their shape, the grief of a rusted bicycle, the lightened path stomped into earth, clouded over by the next layer of trunk, each day poisoning the roots with its rust, each year furthering from the neighborhood kids. And that is all.
Kind of emotional.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Brian.
Okay, so for my piece, I did a creative nonfiction piece, and it kind of started when during one of our classes, we had a conversation about what items do you hold on to during times of uncertainty. And so for me, what came to mind were my basketball shoes, because during the whole lockdown, like most of us, I never left my house, but what I did do was I would meet one of my friends at like a local park and we'd play basketball. So really like what I see when I look at those basketball shoes was like my one connection to the outside world, which had basically all but disappeared. So I wrote this piece, and it kind of talks about that feeling of isolation, and but it does tie in with some hope about, there's still a reason to lace them up. That's what I titled it. So I'll just read the first page or so. Okay. So I've done away with alarm clocks since the world ended. That is something I'm glad to be without. These days, I wake up with the sun who shines through the blinds in strips of proof that there is still life on the other side of my window. Today, I'll leave my bedroom 4 or 5 times. The first trip for my morning coffee. I take tiny slurps from my mug while looking out the window above the kitchen sink. The sun glistens off the dew that coats everything, especially the patches of overgrown grass in the backyard that have swallowed up the remnants of my past life. Neon water guns, soccer balls, and garden tools surely have been buried out there. There was a bird bath at one point, but it's gone now, along with my grandpa who maintained it. Time continues moving along, growing, consuming. I look out and over the back fence to the train tracks that now only serve as a reminder. The train doesn't run anymore. If it did, it would serve as the new symbol of death. Forget the dark figure draped in a black hooded cloak. Forget the sight. Since the pandemic begun, death now moved at 70 miles per hour. Death was now just past the sliding entrance doors. Death would cling to the handrails whose purpose was said to have kept you standing, balanced. Death would roam out of the mouths of nearby strangers saying hello, or talking on the phone, or even just sighing out of exhaustion or annoyance. I take another slurp of my coffee, shifting my eyes away from a world that doesn't exist anymore. The world exists within my home now. Cable TV and the internet are the only connections to the rest of humanity anymore. Not saying they weren't the strongest connections I had before the world went into hibernation. At least back then, I could get feedback on my thoughts about the world with the people closest to me. A nod of affirmation or the wide-eyed look of, what are you talking about? Goes a long way. Now I can only hope my conjured up view of the world has any footing. It's completely secondhand. The word humanity is only an idea now.
Alicia?
Thank you. So I did a very simple drawing of a bedroom that I just recently moved into, as my parents just recently bought a home. And as I was drawing it, I kind of had a memorization of just what it meant to feel isolated. And I called this Made for the Isolated, as in if you were making your own bed. In time of drawing it, I felt that there are a lot of things that I purposely did the way that I did them. As you can see, the bed isn't as even as the wall. The windows are kind of like wobbly, and it kind of builds a childish character. As you see, like the hand sanitizer's bottle is not even really a bottle. And one thing I really like about it is that it goes through a pattern of feeling kind of grief. As we've talked about so much through our own projects ourselves, we feel really uncertain of the unexpected. And that's going to be constant. I mean, as we go through life, we will constantly feel unexpected and put in the place of feeling uncertain because of the unexpected. And that was basically what COVID-19 looked like for me. Very boring, very plain, very empty, very lonely, very dark. And I feel like this bedroom kind of explains just that. Thank you.
Karen?
Hey everyone, I did my piece on short static film to kind of give the idea of how life would be without human activity, and also There's a lot of emphasis on like the sound design in this piece. I want to kind of like do what's it called, like basically give it to like slow down because we're in a very fast-paced environment. So I feel like we kind of forget to like take the time to like breathe and like just, you know, relax and gather our thoughts.
And Cecilia?
All right, everybody, I'm Cecilia. So the topic that I chose just in the face of uncertainty is the current overturn of Roe v. Wade, which is the previously held constitutional right to an abortion. We no longer have that right as women in the United States of America unless your state has protected that right. So I dove deep into this topic through an essay that just describes kind of like how that overturn did happen. And then it analyzes all of the very serious issues and consequences that have since happened because of that Supreme Court decision. So it makes it a very heavy social issue, as you all should be familiar with it, being that we are HCOM students. I'm sure you've all spoken about it in at least one of your classes. But I want to read you a chunk of my conclusion just because I tied my essay together with somewhat of a call to action just in the face of all of this uncertainty. I remain hopeful. The removal of the Constitution protection for the right to pursue an abortion is a social issue that presents contemporary discrimination against women, but this is not the end. The inexistent constitutional right could remain as such for many years to come, but being able to adjust to the current standard by increasing contraceptive accessibility is a starting point. Furthermore, I encourage anyone who may have an untold story to find a way to express their frustrations around this social issue. Being able to spread awareness of the importance of this devastating decision is one of the most valuable things we can do given our right to freedom of speech. There are future generations of young women who are relying on us to eliminate the cycle of the subordination of women employing discriminatory practices. And it is our responsibility to advocate for the political representatives that will honor and support the majority opinion, as provided in a study from Pew Research that I cited earlier on in the paper. Every person who advocates against an abortion ban within their state is of great value, and it allows us to remain hopeful that women's reproductive rights and autonomy will be restored. So yes, just in the face of uncertainty and given all of the conversations that we've had about recent kind of consequences of certain actions, that's what I focus my essay on. So
Thank you for listening.
Okay, and then virtually Chase is going to present. Let me pull yours up. Chase, whenever you're ready.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Are you speaking? Okay, let me. Yeah. Let me try to fix that. Could you try now?
Hello?
I know we could put, do you have his number?
Yeah, I used to live with them.
Could you put him on speaker?
Yeah.
And then we'll put him up on the mic. Chase, we're gonna call you.
So bad. It's like a whip.
What up?
Yeah. What's up? Probably on there. There you go.
Can you guys hear him or not? Just a little. Can you just be really, really loud?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Okay. So obviously my name is Chase. I'm going to briefly talk about this, but in my piece called One Day to discuss my journey with uncertainty of medical diagnosis at age 24. I talk about my past lifestyle and how it's dramatically changed recently because of my health. I also hope to encourage people to take better care of themselves and to really never take a day for granted. A little more background for the story because everything that's gone in my life over the last 6 months has become somewhat of a blur. Writing this short story really helped me stay in touch with everything I felt during this period. It's also pretty bizarre that much of this class is revolved around the idea of dealing with uncertainty because that's exactly what I've experienced the last semester and a half. And I will now read you guys section 6 called 6 Months In of my piece titled One Day. All right, this brings us to today. I just celebrated my 24th birthday with my family and plan to graduate next December. Though it was supposed to be this semester, I had to drop most of my classes and focus solely on my health. And that's totally fine. These past 6 months have taught me more about life than I could have ever imagined. It's almost hard to put into words, but here I am trying to do so. And today, we still haven't stopped searching for an answer. In fact, we're getting much closer to a real diagnosis, one that will actually give me some closure and potentially a better quality of life. We soon learned that fibromyalgia is a diagnosis that the doctor obviously gives you when he doesn't know what's wrong. It usually something like co-occurs with another chronic condition. This is definitely my case because since then, the neuropathy and tingling sensation has progressed to affect both my eyes and head. Next week, I'll be getting a brain scan test for multiple sclerosis, a neurological autoimmune disease that affects your brain, spinal cord. Though I've never felt this much anxiety and fear about something in life, I have to stay positive and remember that things will eventually work out. Like I said, this experience has honestly given me so much perspective as to what life is truly about. Sometimes I'll just start sitting laughing about everything. All the worries, anger, and sadness slowly dissipate when you're faced with something like this. Because all we really have is this current moment. Yet we are always so hung up on past mistakes and future's uncertainty. Everything in my life has suddenly started to make sense, and it seems that these past 6 months of health has something to do with that. It's safe to say I've become a much stronger person mentally because of this as well. I just hope that whatever it is that I'm battling doesn't slowly take away my physical ability. That would be really hard to accept. The story is not intended to make anyone feel bad for me though. It's actually intended to do quite the opposite. I want to encourage people to make the most of every single moment in life because we far often just go through the motions until it's too late. Life's a beautiful thing when we're happy and healthy. I question what caused my body to explode at age 24, but I truly believe it has something to do with the accumulation of stress and crippling anxiety. Our physical health cannot be more connected to our mental, yet we often separate the two. Loving yourself each day, each and every day cannot be more important when it comes to physical well-being. Even though my future is incredibly uncertain at the moment, I'm happy to wake up every day, spending with people I love most. I'm also incredibly thankful for my family that got me through this. Like I said earlier, it's funny how everything in my life has started to make sense until last day. Seems like for so long I'm battling myself mentally, but now my body is fighting itself physically. I want nothing more to get better because I now realize the real beauty and joy in life lies within all the small moments. Hopefully by reading my story, you'll stop what you're doing and take care of yourself each and every day because this current moment is all we really have. I know one day I will get back to where I was, running trails and surfing waves with a huge smile on my face. That is where I felt like my best self. Though I truly miss that feeling of freedom, for now I will have to learn to love myself and all the little things in my life. Well, there's a picture of me running for org this time last year. Thank you so much for listening.
So much. It was really moving.
Good job.
It's really hard to follow up after that. Okay.
So as we've been talking about uncertainty so much, I really went in the direction for my project with like uncertainty within oneself. As the women in the room, I'm sure can relate, society tells you to be two different things a lot. And I've really been experiencing that this year as I've like been growing into more of an adult and like being in charge of more things and all of that kind of stuff. So I have a poem that I'm going to share with you. Sometimes I think seeing the best in people loses me friends, annoys people. A driver cuts me off and I say, maybe they know someone that's dying or having a baby. My old friends say, or they're just an asshole. I'm stuck driving between two lanes, swerving myself into jeopardy, cutting myself off to please another version of myself. I want to trust and be trusted. I don't think the world is evil. I believe in love at first sight and soulmates and that everything happens for a reason and I'm called naive. I'm a hard ass, or I want to be anyways, but I want to be sweet and loving and kind and be known as a good person. I want the words bitch and slut and whore stricken from society. I am also a woman who wants to be taken seriously. I want to stand with my hands on my hips and climb to the top. I want to be called a bitch and own it. I want people to know they can't push me around, but that I would never raise a hand to anyone. A constant tug of war between badass and beach town Barbie. I am determined that the world won't break me down, ever. But hasn't it already? I live walking the tightrope between good girl and bad bitch. The uncertainty of my two halves forever halting the conversation with the words, wait, no. Forever shifting conversations back and forth. This internal power struggle sends me into spirals, a vertigo vessel spinning into confusion. I'll never tell a friend I want love. I hardly let myself want it. One side of me is bold. The other side is talking the first side out of sending that text. Stop talking. Stand up for yourself more. Stop talking. Say something. Jesus, it's loud, isn't it? And people love to watch that tightrope get thinner and thinner and thinner. Try to taunt me and then call me bitter. Revel in running their hands through my man's hair and whispering jealous behind my back. I'm only one woman. Can I take the power struggle between me, myself, and I? Should I take it? Should I pick one? Should I find the blend and bend myself backwards to find exactly who to be and when?
I drown myself in professionalism, letting one side of me destroy the other for the sake of the job. I take away things that would make the good girl happy to please the boss bitch. She's never pleased anyways. If dissatisfaction isn't uncertainty, then what is? If uncertainty within oneself isn't dissatisfaction, then what is? Well, if only fools are satisfied, then I'm the smartest damn girl you'll ever meet. Thank you.
Great work, thank you. Oh, Genesis. We may run into the same problem.
I might have Genesis.
Really? Let's call.
Genuinely, I think I might.
Genesis, we might call you. Spin around.
I texted her.
She'll put her number in the chat.
I
Somebody
swear.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz, but the.
No, I swear.
Okay. I'm not gonna say it here. Could somebody call?
Yeah.
Yeah, could you call her?
I can't try.
I don't do
You lost my number. I'm not picking up from a lot. Anyone but.
Could have talking about.
I'm allowed to like Yoda. Which doesn't make any sense. They're like, yeah, you can like do all of that.
Yeah, you will. Okay. Okay, you're on speaker.
Okay, so I'm not very new at my feet, I'm so sorry. Okay, as I thought of uncertainty, I thought of my culture, just because, yeah, it is beautiful and we pride ourselves in being Mexican, but there's a lot of ugliness in our culture as well. So I wrote this short story called Living in Dark Skin to shed light on the colorism I've experienced in my culture and the hate I've gotten from my own people. So I'll read the first page. El peor enemigo de un mexicano es otro mexicano. A Mexican's worst enemy is another Mexican. Curiosita, funny looking. Prietita, dark complected. Oaxaquita, from Oaxacan descent. I remember the first time I opened my social studies textbook in 4th grade, and my classmates compared me to the indigenous people on our pages. Genesis, that's you, as they laughed and pointed at the page. That was the first time I saw someone that looked like me on a page. Brown skin, dark hair, and brown eyes stared right at me, and I immediately felt discomfort. I closed the book and rejected the image I saw. I remember questioning why my classmates would do that. I did not think I could possibly look like those people on my page, when in reality, that is exactly what I saw in the mirror. Although at the moment I should have been proud of my roots and heritage, I could not get past how embarrassing it was to be a dark-skinned girl in 4th grade. My classmates had convinced me that my skin was a curse. Back then, I had long dark brown hair that my mom put in 2 thick braids. I had hairy arms and 2 squinty brown eyes. My skin was brown, and by society's standards, I was not the prettiest girl in the classroom. By the age of 10, I knew this. I understood that I would never compare to the beautiful white woman I watched on TV. I was dark-skinned, and my complexion brought me so much shame. I wanted to be a light-complected, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl more than anything in the world. After this moment, it was no longer okay for my mother to braid my hair. I was terrified to be compared to La India Maria or to Pocahontas. This moment changed me in the way I looked at myself in the mirror. I was taught to hate myself. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Dolores.
So I did a painting, I did a watercolor more specifically, and with it, I just wanted to represent the feelings of anxiety, confusion, and isolation that can become in being in an uncertain situation or a new situation. Specifically, the experience I had in mind while making this was actually coming to the school last semester. It was my first time moving away from home. I had lived in the same town, same house since I was born. So change wasn't really something I was accustomed to. Compound that with the fact that I had been basically like 3 years doing online school just around my family. And yeah, it was gonna be a big change, but I thought I was ready for it. I wanted it, I was excited. And so I just kind of threw myself into kind of the transfer process. You know, I did my applications, did my transcripts, you know, found a place to move, did all the things. And once I finally got here and my parents moved me in and they left, I just thought to myself, okay, what am I doing here? What's next for me? Those first few weeks were kind of rough because it was extremely isolating, which I try to capture with this isolated figure here. That's me. Do we look similar? Yeah, that's what I was going for. So, and then kind of like the swirly things going on that kind of represented like the confusion and like not really knowing what direction I was going in. But as you can see, there's some color because it wasn't all bad. So once I kind of settled in about a couple months in and met new people, I started experiencing like good experiences, and I met people I never would have met if I hadn't had to experience all those negative experiences. Anyways, so yeah, that's just kind of what I was going for with this piece, and kind of have it serve as a reminder of those like uncomfortable feelings you get with uncertainty, those uncomfortable feelings that you can get. They're worth it in the end because some beautiful things can come out of it. So that's all.
And watercolors, one of the paints I use all the time. I was wondering how you got that kind of gritty texture. I've never seen that before.
Well, I basically, so I think some of it comes from, I did like a hodgepodge over it in the end, and it kind of gave it a grittier texture. Plus I did some like splattering, which I don't know, I feel like it added some grit to it in a way. So yeah, plus maybe the way it transferred to, it's a little grittier looking, but yeah. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So this looks pretty goofy, and I'll admit that's because it is. I'm a writer, so when I have creative assignments and the ability to do creative writing for assignments, I always take that. But then I saw uncertainty, and I wanted to just do something that I've never ever done before, and I have never, as you can tell, in my life, photoshopped. So I did something like that. I wanted to do something different, so I took a risk with the method I used, but also this is a mixture of two pieces I turned in early in the semester, both kind of related to uncertainty. The first one was a little drawing that I turned in that was based on the statement of making a mountain out of a molehill. And the other one was this concept of a useless watch. And so I combined them both into this. So the smaller me is really just more like obsessed with the clock, the time, and really just everything around him revolving around what am I going to do in the future? What am I going to be like? What's going to be available for me? And I'm obsessed with it. I'm freaked out and stressed all the time. But the other me, the picture's usually bigger, so you can't tell as much, but it doesn't really show all of me. And I thought that I did that on purpose. I zoomed in more because I wanted it to be like I was just taking a distant, quick glance at it. Because now I feel like I'm in a place where time doesn't really matter as much. I'm not as uncertain about it. It is what it is. And then I'm just trying to be more present. Despite being more zoomed out and less features available about me, the bigger me feels more preeminent in the photo. He's bigger, and so you notice him more. And so that's yeah, just what it is. I was bigger because I feel like I'm more present in my life now, and I'm less uncertain about the future.
The watch you made in the makerspace as well, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Hunter.
So for my project, I attempted to make a soundscape type video. The audio is a piece of music I tried making and using themes of like uncertainty, isolation. I just made some random piece of music that I thought portrayed that. And the visuals is generated by AI. I'm really interested in AI, and I mean, I'm sure we all have kind of uncertainty about it just because there's so much unknown. Kind of the surface level AI is pretty simple and like, I mean, it can create art. You have like Chat GPT and all that, but then underneath the surface level, AI is kind of creepy and the whole world it operates in that we don't really quite understand. So for the AI, for the visual, I basically just went to an AI art generator and entered very simple prompts using words like alone and isolated, and then it generated images, and then I put that together into this video.
the sense of isolation, but the work itself is really good. Alana. Woo!
Hi, everyone. For my in-depth piece, I wrote a short story. It's called Oxicity. And I wrote this during the week where we were reading short stories about like climate change and like dystopian futures. And so I wanted to try something out like that. So this one specifically focuses on like deforestation and like what would happen if all our trees died off. And so it basically follows this story where this billionaire and his company like killed all the trees and there's not enough oxygen for us to breathe, so people have to wear oxygen helmets, and it's a problem. And also the billionaire makes money off of these oxygen helmets, like his company makes the oxygen helmets. So it's like anyway. So I will read a page of it. Do you want the microphone? Oh, okay. Okay. What are we going to do? Go up against the biggest company in the world? The two of us versus the corporation who single-handedly killed off every tree on the planet and somehow profited off the fact that nobody was able to breathe anymore? What exactly is your plan, Sam? Well, she hasn't thought that far ahead yet. The Oxicity banquet is next Saturday, exactly 9 days away. Get in first, figure out what to do second. That's as far as she's gotten. She's been trying to convince Roberto to use his many connections to get them into the event for months now, but she hasn't thought about what she's going to do when she makes it in. Ruffle a few feathers, pickpocket a couple rich guests, maybe spill some punch on someone's dress. Something small, something big, probably something big. That's what she does best anyway. What she really wants is to have Oxicity CEO Nero Zephyr pay for what he's done, but she doesn't exactly know how to do that. Hence the reason why Roberto's looking at her like she's grown a second head under her oxygen helmet. It's his be serious Samora face, a face she's grown quite accustomed to over the years, and one that's probably warranted most of the time, one that's probably warranted this time. But you'd think 15 years of friendship would be enough to blindly convince him to get them into one of the biggest parties of the year and wreak some havoc. I don't have a plan yet, she admits sheepishly, watching Roberto's arms cross in annoyance, but at least we'll get some free food out of it. Free rich people food. You can eat all the fancy hors d'oeuvres you want. Roberto's eyebrows narrow at that, and she can hear a muffled sigh under his oxygen helmet. The gears in his brain turning at the thought of salmon pups. If 15 years of friendship wouldn't convince him, the potential of free food definitely will. Fine, I'll get us in, but I don't want to know what plan you come up with, okay? Leave me out of it, please. Sam nods in agreement. Of course she wouldn't bring him into this. It would be too dangerous. And if she's planning to ruin anyone's life, it would certainly not be Roberto. She feels an excitement and wraps her arms around his waist, their oxygen helmets clinking together between them, a constant reminder of the unfortunate existence that is Nero Zephyr. He needs to be brought down and destroyed, treated like all the forests he slaughtered, given a taste of his own medicine, made to regret everything he's ever done. It's all or nothing. She just needs a plan.
All right, so I think that I showed this one before, but I felt that it was something that I wanted to talk about now. So when our professor asked us to do our response about a map, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. And I wanted to do something that represented me. And I thought, why not my heart? Like, it's the thing that keeps me alive and the thing that makes me live. So let's do this. So this is my heart, separated in 7 parts: friends, family, Formula One, hobbies, animals, myself, and damages. These are the things that are representing me the most and the things that I love the most. And some things that are in it, even though I wouldn't like the damages, but they're a part of me. And it's important to remember what got me there. And even though I'm not thinking of it all the time, it's part of me and it will always be. But this heart is not going to stay like this forever. Events, people, and just basically life are going to change it. Hopefully in a good way, but we are never sure of that. That's the uncertainty I am having. What is going to change my heart? And what if I let people entering my life and change it? But if I live my uncertainty thinking to control my heart, I'm never going to feel alive. Let people and events impact your heart, because even the bad thing makes your heart who you are. And always learn of the bad things. There's always a thing that will help you. Always try to see the cup half full, because one day it will be. Thank you.
What's up? I'm Ethan. I did my project, I titled it Inanimate Uncertainty. And basically with uncertainty, there's like there's a very negative connotation around it, but I kind of wanted to take the idea of the uncertainty during the pandemic and try and like take the positives out of it. So I asked a few of my friends if I could take photos of them with the inanimate object that they felt helped carry them through quarantine. So there's another layer to this. I did it all on film because I really like the idea of the uncertainty of the film, of like shooting on film. You don't get to see it right after you take it. You have to wait till it's developed. So you basically get like one opportunity to take these photos. So this is like my buddy Sam. He took a picture with his hacky sack, and just like as an example, this one is really cool because it's still something that we do to this day, and being able to like take a time of uncertainty where there's like a lot of negative things going on and you're not really able to see your friends, but being able to make this connection with these inanimate objects and then carry that with you to share with your friends now that we can hang out is like really cool, I think. So yeah, then there's like my buddy Blake with his surfboard, and it kind of just goes on. There's Jeff with his fishing pole. I kind of wanted to make them all funny too, just because like, I don't know. It's really easy to get stuck in like negative loops, especially talking about uncertainty and stuff. And then there's my buddy Holland with a book. This one's actually like pretty special because this book has like really kind of changed his life and the trajectory of where he was going to go. Like through COVID, he read this book a few times, and he's kind of shifted like what he wants to do to now he's, instead of coming back here next semester, he's going to Indonesia to try and write for a surf magazine, which is like really cool, obviously. And then yeah, the next one is my buddy Max with his skateboard. And then the last one's my girlfriend with CDs, just like all this stuff that people were able to do alone in that time of uncertainty, and now they get to share it with their friends. So yeah, thank you guys.
I like that you did it on actual film. Like that's how it used to be when you would take pictures, you didn't know what happened, so you got them developed. Okay, Stone.
How's it going, guys? My name's Stone, and I did my piece musically. I did a musical piece titled "Anna, Handful of Inconvenience." Don't read that, I'm about to read it. I project this theme of uncertainty through a musical piece divided into 3 segments. The first, which pays an ugly tribute to a band I like called The Residents, one of their songs, Gylum Bardot, which introduces the listener to an unpredictable collage that grows worse upon listen. The second arrangement, being the main piece, uses each instrument to paint the overwhelming feelings anyone can get when feeling uncertain and feeling just confused and unsure about what's going to happen next. Its conclusion, however, reminds us that things eventually find a way of working out and leave us being a stronger person and more experienced character. So Hope you like it.
It's really actually hard to do. Right, really just hard to
It's pretty
do.
easy if you just do everything and then record it.
Oh, yeah, no, you know, move the files and whatnot.
Right. Oh, yes.
Okay, so mine's called Faces in a Pandemic because it's basically just a collage of like 2 years. The pandemic starts like right before right before the start of my senior year, takes us all the way up to the end of last summer. The point was kind of to capture this moment in time that I was living as like a time capsule. I think a lot of us obviously felt really uncertain about where life was heading. When COVID started, they said 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and that turned into 2 years. And I feel like COVID took a lot from me, including my will to write, which kind of sucks because I'm a creative writing concentration. So it's mostly what I do. I couldn't write anything for this or for half of the class. So I decided to go through my thousands of photos that I took in this time. And something that was really hard was seeing all of the faces that I ended up losing in the pandemic, not like death, but just a lot of connections that got cut. But it was also very enlightening to see the faces that stayed. And I think it gave me a newfound appreciation for this moment in time where everything did stop and I might not have had the ability to go out and do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't get to graduate the way I wanted to. I didn't get to start college the way I wanted to, but I had time with my grandparents that I would have never had before. I was stuck inside with them for 2 years, and that is something that I will forever be grateful for. Yes.
Good morning.
So I presented two pieces. So this first one is called Pink Platforms. I'll scroll down. There you go. So I made this piece on it's almost as tall as me, but not quite, a piece of plyboard and cut it out. It has acrylic paint and Sharpie, and I made it in a pop art style. One of the some of the key elements of pop art is obviously really bright colors, as well as there's kind of a trend that people use everyday objects in pop art and kind of dress it up to be something that looks abnormal. And around the time I made this piece, I was just starting to go out more after the pandemic. So I got myself a really cute pair of big old platform pink boots. And I was feeling really inspired by them. So I wanted to put that into a painting. So this piece to me is really about embracing power behind femininity. I feel like a lot of times girls are kind of told to be modest and tone it down and, you know, kind of keep to yourself. And I wanted to make this piece really loud and vibrant. I purposely used like the hottest shade of pink possible I could find to kind of contrast against that kind of like mellow baby pink that we see oftentimes associated with pink. And I feel like that can be symbolic of how we view femininity as well. It's often seen as something that's like docile, but it doesn't have to be, you know, you can be loud and proud with it. So yeah, that's what this piece is about. And then I have one more. So this piece is called Suffocation. It's in real life probably about this big, and it's made using a plethora of things. It's got watercolor for the background, as well as acrylic for the foreground, charcoal for some of the back shading, and watercolor for the skin as well. And then also yarn for the hair. So this piece is really kind of, I don't know, it hits home for me because it's about when I kind of discovered how much mental illness controls my life. It really came to light to me during the pandemic because especially during when online classes were a thing, I had a very difficult time with it because I've kind of made a distinction for myself to focus when I'm in the classroom environment, and then when I'm at home, I can goof off and do what I want. And I'd lost that distinction. So I was really struggling with online classes, and it kind of became impossible for me to ignore that I have ADD. And how much of that just really controls everything you do, it becomes impossible to ignore, especially when you're forced to kind of just live with yourself and reflect on the way you live your life. It also, I don't know, kind of touches on depression as well, because oftentimes you can go onto autopilot in your life and just kind of let the day go by and do the motions without really being there. So that's why I kind of have the octopus like wrapping around the arms, like it's controlling you. And yeah, so this piece really speaks to me about uncertainty, because sometimes you just don't know when you'll get out of a funk. or when it's going to affect you on a given day or not. But yeah, thank you so much.
Do you mind going to,
Okay, so for my piece, I actually really struggled on what I wanted to write about because this is actually the last thing I have to do before I graduate, and my path to graduation has been anything but ordinary. I took quite a long break between junior college and now, because when sports ended for me, I was kind of a lost cause. I didn't really know what the future was going to hold for me. And so, yeah, I really struggled with what I wanted to choose to write about because unlike many of you, I'm not creative at all. I'm very literal. And so I wrote an essay, but kind of like Ethan, who is not here, he touched on just times of uncertainty and how they can be kind of depressing. And so I really struggled, like I said, with finding out what I wanted to write about. And so then, of course, TikTok was listening, and this artist that goes by the name of David Popa popped up. And as you can see, his pieces generally are structured around like the landscape around him, and those are all floating blocks of ice that he does charcoal work on. And I thought that was a really cool representation of art, which I normally am not inclined to talk about, and also with our theme, times of uncertainty. So I'll just read a small little bit of my essay. Popa's project is called Fractured Project and is truly breathtaking. It reminded me of the theme of our class, times of uncertainty, and how quickly perspective can change in the most literal of terms. As the ice melted, some would sink to the bottom of the ocean and other pieces would float off further and further from the initial starting point. This created a magical experience and great photography. Since this project, his art has really taken off and his creative mind has taken it to the next degree. Most of his art is now focused on the landscape surrounded by his artwork. I love how as the land changes, so does his art. The ground that he strategically chooses has its own history stacked upon itself as well. The blocks of ice are melting due to global warming, which is evident in the photos. Following the theme of uncertainty, for me personally, it really resonates with my life because of where I am at in my academic career, along with professional career. Being at the very end of school means graduation. Graduation means it's time to start looking for a career-oriented job. And all those decisions are exciting, but no, it is uncertain whether I'll enjoy my new job, coworkers, or even a work environment. Similar to Popa's work, it is uncertain whether a particular block of ice that he decides to draw on will hold up or look how he envisions it. Regardless of that fear, he is an artist and must always give it a shot, pushing his boundaries further and further. And so do I as a graduating student. Without taking risks, nothing will ever come to fruition. Graduating can be an intimidating time for some, but also an exciting time. If one thing is for certain, it truly is a time of change, transition, and uncertainty. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I kind of go on to a few of his other pieces, but I thought this was an appropriate representation of times of uncertainty. Yeah.
Build that wall, 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 build that wall.
So yeah, I did my in-depth piece on the wall. I personally wanted to know what happened to this wall. I mean, political factor, I think it was the website said promise. Promise made, promise not kept. And I also, in researching what happened to the wall, I learned about some reactions. One from ex-president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, who made it clear that Mexico was not going to pay for that wall.
For that wall, he should pay for it. He's got the money.
Trump, who's been
And then in reactions towards his zero tolerance policy, mothers came together and created this organization called Immigrant Families Together, who they try to support moms and reunite them with their kids. This is the trailer from the documentary that profiles that organization.
Quiero contar mi historia porque yo sé que hay muchas personas que han pasado o están pasando lo mismo que yo.
We begin today's show with the growing outrage over the Trump administration's policy of separating immigrant families who cross the U.S.-Mexico border.
If you don't want your child to be separated, then don't bring them across the border illegally.
A lot of people don't realize that it's actually a misdemeanor to cross into the country at a non-border checkpoint. So for the equivalent of basically a parking ticket, we're separating families and causing lifelong trauma.
Thousands of people waiting in line to go to jail.
Y yo le digo, pero abogado, ¿cómo voy a pagar tus honorarios? Me dice, no te preocupes, unas mujeres de Nueva York han pagado mis honorarios.
We understood that paying the bond is the first step and the easiest part. It really became clear that the work that we were doing was not temporary.
If this wasn't the time to act, if this wasn't the time to put our lives on the back burner, then when is it? When is that time?
Que buscamos un sueño americano que decimos. The way the system is built right now tears families apart.
Yo quería venir a Estados Unidos para una vida mejor, no para estar separado de mi mamá.
What was really intended to be a project to release one mom and get her back with her kids caught momentum so quickly and hasn't stopped since.
Todo lo que ellos sufrieron, le digo yo no me lo esperaba y yo les he pedido perdón a ellos.
Tocó un poco de temor a lo que el juez vaya a determinar.
We have a particular responsibility to show up and use our power and privilege.
De ello depende la seguridad de mis hijos y de mi familia.
So it's my end of piece.
If you want to listen to the podcast, it's here on the exhibit. Joshua.
Hello. I did my paper on The Starry Night by Van Gogh. I'm sure many of you have seen it. I wrote about this art piece written in isolation as I could relate to it during the pandemic when many people had to isolate due to symptoms such as family. Surrounding my time during the COVID-19 pandemic and related to this art piece and stillness that was going on in the world at the time. My transition from high school to college was unordinary as I didn't experience prom or grad night or get to walk the podium for graduation. The message I want to convey is that even in dark times such as this pandemic that we went through, there is light in areas of life. A replica of this art piece was given to me at the beginning of my college career, and 3 years later still holds meaning toward my education and goals I strive for. Thank you.
Yeah, creating art. Maria?
Hi, everyone. So I did a series of poems that I entitled Pandemic Recollections. Many of the pieces that were presented here today have centered around the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic as it affected us globally and was essentially a life-changing world event. The poems that I wrote, there's 5 in total. The first one discussed the impending doom that was felt in late 2019 and early 2020 as the reports of the virus were spreading, and there was a sense of impending doom with everything that was slowly closing and all the changes that were taking place. The second 2 poems, entitled Bored and Fidget, kind of discuss being in shelter-in-place orders and how we coped and dealt with that, and the myriad of emotions attached to it, ranging from stress, anxiety, depression, and boredom. Another effect of spending the better part of 3 years in isolation was the loss of memory and the mind fog experienced by so many, which I discuss in the poem Lost Years and Lost Mine. And the final poem in the series is entitled Endemic-ish. And that covers the time currently today, coming out of the pandemic and still trying to find the sense of a new normal. And I am going to read to you all the poem entitled Lost Years and Lost Mine. Thoughts and memories muddled. How long has it been? Started last year. No, wait, 3 years ago? Oh my gosh, how did it go so fast? It started at 2 weeks. I thought for sure by September, back to normal. Just kept going. Blurry thoughts, foggy brain, going. I can't remember. Missed birthdays, lonely holidays, peak of my 20s, gone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. So I decided to do my project on spaces and how we define spaces really. So if you think about a space in your head, whether that's your room, a classroom you frequent, the gym, wherever it is, you're gonna have a certain feeling towards that space, right? So you may feel comfortable in it if it's your house, right? You may feel nervous if it's your first time at the gym, who's looking at me, right? So we attribute very specific feelings to spaces, but why? So my piece was essentially exploring that idea. How do we define spaces? And specifically, how do objects define spaces? So the first idea I came across was specifically, what do objects do to define that space, right? So if you think about it, when you look in the woods, right? There's trees, there's bushes, but then you might come across something that isn't normal there, a lamp post, whatever it is, right? But the issue with that is that, does that change the space itself? Or are you now, specifically paying attention to, for example, this is a guitar in the middle of the woods. So has that changed the space? Is it no longer the woods? Are we only focusing on the guitar? Well, as I explored through my piece, I said that we could, we could completely change the reality of a space by focusing on specific objects within the space that capture our eyes. But the reality is that's not always the truth. So if you scroll back up, there's this is a photo I took at the Arches National Park. And when you look at this image, you get a sense of heat, right? It's very hot. It was very hot. It was like 105 degrees when I took this photo. So it was very hot, but you can see that through the image. And there's nothing really in this image that specifically defines the space. There's no objects. There's not a big old sign saying, this is a desert. It is very hot. You should wear a hat, right? You just kind of know based on the color palette, you know, just the look, the rocks, the sand, everything about it, you feel a certain way when looking at it. So immediately I was like, okay, well, now we can't say specifically that an object is what defines the space or many objects within the space, right? So then I went on and I basically came to this is a photo taken in Arizona. These are famous saguaro cactuses. So we've established objects might be able to define a space. Maybe it's the feeling of the space, but then specifically you as an individual can also observe a space differently than somebody else. So these are the saguaro cactuses famous in Arizona. If you've never seen them before, you'll be like, wow, that's like the cactuses in Wile E. Coyote or all those old cartoons, right? That's that classic cactus. Because in California, we do have some cactuses, but they're not like this. These are huge. They're like 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall. And so they're very distinct and you can immediately go, okay, that's a desert. That's a big old cactus in that desert. But if you're somebody who lives in Arizona, you know, maybe you're a park ranger, right? You see these every day. It's just, oh, that's a saguaro cactus. I've seen that a million times before. So it's not particularly interesting. And your eyes, when you're observing this space, you might see something that, you know, somebody who is a tourist like I was might not see. You might see a rabbit in the bushes or something because you're not paying attention to these cactuses, which somebody for the first time, that's all they're looking at, right? That's the only object. So now I've introduced this idea of perspective, right? How can our own humanistic perspective change a space specifically, right? If you think about it, I don't know if anyone here is a native to Monterey County. I am. One of the animals that's super, super popular here in the Monterey Bay is the little sea otters. They're very cute, very cuddly. You want to just hug one, get a little plushy, right? But if you see one every day, I go sailing almost every weekend. I see them all the time. They're right upside the boat, you know, crawling on the docks, doing whatever. And so eventually you're like, wow, that's still very cute and cuddly, but you're paying attention to other things. If that's not the defining object. So essentially, we come to the conclusion of a space can be defined by objects, but it's the objects that you observe in that space. It's how you specifically feel within that space. It might not all be subjective. There might be natural elements that everybody can observe, but when you pay attention to a space, you are specifically paying attention to specific objects in the space and they're making you feel a certain way. Or you're paying attention to the climate, you know, the atmosphere. Is your room freezing cold? Maybe I need to turn on the heater. Is your room really hot? I need to open up a window. You're paying attention to these elements, and it's this huge complex array of feelings, emotions, you know, that other people might not feel that way if they enter the space. They might feel completely differently. So I ended this also with a lovely photo of the Grand Canyon National Park. So thank you.
Like intellectual exploration.
Yeah, it gets a little metaphysical.
No, it's really interesting. Okay, and then Jared.
Okay, so for mine, I just did a drawing and it's about uncertainty, and on one hand is a dove and the other hand is holding a grenade, and it's showing the balance between peace and war. And you know, there's a lot of that in the world right now. And the globe is on the peace axis with the heart in the middle. And yeah, and all the fists at the top are like showing all the diversity across the world. And when I wanted to make this picture, I didn't have any crayons or color pencils, so I bought some. I made it.
a really great piece to end a look at our exhibit, thinking about the balance between peace and warfare, right? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I think I'm really impressed with the diversity of all of your work and all of your thoughtfulness this semester. For those of you who are graduating, congratulations, and I hope you all keep in touch with me. Sending a lot of care and love to each of you. So before I get emotional, I get emotional. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. No, shut up. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you want to keep them in your office, you're gonna take it. And then you're sort of inhale here, like that's so awkward. Yeah, I was like, all of like the 7 years. Yeah, no, thank you for everything, seriously. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm still stuck here.
I just wanted to thank you for everything.
See you. Oh, my
Should
be safe.
Yeah,
I think so. Everywhere.
It's a great semester for both classes and very understanding and yeah, you know, I mean, it really makes you stronger, but you're very empathetic the entire time. So at least take the moment to thank you, because it really does mean a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.